Hello silver friends, this is Joli from QuickSilverHair, and today we're going to get into how I ditched fast fashion and my tips to help you get started. A couple of months ago I asked you in a previous video if you were interested in learning more about how I decluttered my closet of fast fashion and started embracing a slower fashion concept, and you all resoundingly said yes, we would love to have that content. So while that's a departure from my channel, it was something that you were interested in, and I'm so glad I can share this with you because it has become something that I have really enjoyed doing and learning about. In this video, I'm going to share with you why I ditched fast fashion and how I did it without breaking the bank. If all that sounds interesting to you, let's get started. After I embraced my silver hair and I ditched the dye, it opened the door for me to look at other aspects of my life where I wanted to embrace more authentic versions of who I was. That included my style of clothing. I think for all of us at some point in our lives, we've had to reinvent ourselves, whether it's our hair, our makeup, our clothing, or whatever. There's things that happen in life. You graduate, you get married, you get divorced, you get a different job, you have babies, you gain weight, you lose weight. All of these things make us change and reevaluate sometimes. And in this regard, as far as embracing my authentic self with style, I didn't really reinvent myself. The interesting thing is I actually honed in on what I really love. And it also allowed me, as I explored all of this and I started getting rid of clothing, it allowed me to figure out what I needed to stop purchasing. Because there's things that we always, when we're shopping, we'll purchase something and we think, oh, I love this, I'll wear this for, and then we never wear it. We never pull it out of the closet. Because the reality is that it wasn't something that actually fit in our style. So this process for me was evolutionary. It took a while, actually took several years. I started the process in 2020 and I've just now gotten to the point where I really feel like I don't have very much fast fashion left in my closet at all. And I think you need to think of it that way. You need to think of it as not an all or nothing type thing, but something that you embrace gradually. And as we go through this series, I want to share with you some of the things that I learned. So in the follow-on videos, there's going to be more about how I figured out what to buy, when to buy, how to replace things, and so forth, and how going through that process actually created a greater sense of authenticity. Next, let's talk about your why. Knowing your why will help you find your driving force as to what decisions you need to make about the clothing you have and whether you're going to keep it or not. For me, my life why is to make everything around me beautiful. That includes my home, my clothing, my family, my planet. And my why for ditching fast fashion had to do a lot with the planet because I just don't want to keep over consuming, and I definitely don't want to keep over disposing of clothing. A multi-layered issue when it comes to fast fashion. The first layer for me was environmental impact. 92 million tons of clothing ends up in landfills every year. And of that 92 million tons, the US contributes 17 million tons. Each US individual contributes 80 pounds or more a year to landfills just in clothing. Those stats to me are astounding, and I don't want to be a part of that. It also means as you clean out your closet, thinking about how you dispose of everything in a sustainable way. Fortunately, some of these slower fashion companies have created what is called circulatory fashion, and it means that you can send in your clothing to places like ThredUp, and whatever they don't accept to be sold gets sent to recycling to be reused and recycled. So I think it's a really fabulous system that we've created for circulatory fashion and being able to make sure that those clothes do not end up in a landfill. Layer 2 is the human impact of fast fashion. Most of the people that create fast fashion are probably children. They might be victims of human trafficking. they may be women, and basically it is slave labor. I do not want to contribute to slave labor in any way whatsoever, if at all humanly possible. I think it's an absolutely deplorable system, and I think it should be abolished. So one of the ways we are able to, vote is to vote with our dollar. If you think about the impact from the standpoint of they don't make any money, they certainly don't make enough money to live on, but they're not getting health insurance and they're living and working in conditions that are horrible for their health. There are injuries, there are burns, there's chemical exposure, and it's just so, it just sickens me. It's just something that sickens me. I can't stand the idea that we would abuse another human in that way. And if you think about the process of a single garment making it to you, if you've paid $10 or less for that garment, think about all of the people that it took in order for that garment to land in your shopping bag. There's the person who made the material. There's the person who put the material together. There's the person that put that piece of clothing in a plastic sack and shoved it in a box, and that box went on a cargo trailer. And all of the people that got it across the ocean and across to distribution centers, and the distribution centers get it out to the stores or get it out to the online retailer of your choice. And then the person that sells it to you and wraps it up and gets it to you. All of those people are in this chain of a $10 or less item. And when you look at it that way, it becomes crystal clear that this system is very broken and it's very wrong. It's just so wrong. So obviously I feel very passionate about that one, so I'm going to stop there, but you get the idea. The human impact is deplorable. Layer 3 is the fabric content. Most of the fabrics are synthetic and contain, if not all polyester, a high percentage of polyester. Polyester is a plastic. It is a toxic material to produce. And even when you're using 100% recycled plastic, it's still plastic. And this is an interesting thing that has always stuck with me when I learned about plastic. While plastic has its place in innovation and is very helpful for us in many different ways, we are overproducing plastic. But this little fact has always stuck with me, and that is that 100% of the plastic that has ever been created on this planet still exists on this planet in some form. We have no way to get rid of it. Another side of plastics and polyesters is that they shed microparticles into our water when we wash the garments, especially fleeces. The particles come loose in the wash and go down the drain. They end up in our waterways, they end up in our lakes, our rivers, and our oceans, which then they end up in the animals, which if you eat fish, they end up back in you. So it's kind of this really wicked cycle where polyester just keeps going. It just can't be gotten rid of. The fourth is the monopolization of fast fashion. If you remember over the last decade, there was a lot of companies that started going bankrupt, especially during 2020. But they all filed bankruptcy, yet they're still here. They still exist. Why is that? A company called Simon Property Group, aka Simon Malls, their CEO, David Simon, bought out the brands so that he could keep the malls open and the people inside those malls employed. That's really great. That's a wonderful concept. It was a wonderful thing to have happen so we didn't end up with these giant buildings that were empty and vacant. However, it does mean that when he buys out all of these brands, they all become the same, because they are being supplied by the same manufacturers and all of the same fabrics are being used. So once you find out what those brands are, it's kind of hard to take because it all starts to look the same. At my last count, 67 brands have been purchased by Simon Malls. Of those brands, it includes JCPenney's, Brooke Brothers, Eddie Bauer, Lucky Brand Jeans, Reebok, and Jones New York, just to name a handful. So you can see how all of a sudden everything starts to feel the same, everything starts to look the same, and it just is the same. So stacking that all up, you can see how ugly it gets, and that all goes against my why. I decided to start purging when I realized in 2020, in lockdown, I couldn't go shopping, and I used to use shopping as retail therapy. I used to just go to get out of the house or whatever. And I realized when lockdown occurred that I didn't want to go do that, and I didn't need to go do that. But I did also realize how much I had in my closet. I had clothes that didn't fit me anymore. I had stacks of jeans that were a size too small. I had stuff that I never had worn that was not my style. And it really started to weigh on me. I started to really feel that mental load every time I walked in my closet, because it got to where it was like, there's just so much in here and I'm only one person and I don't need all of this. That led me to start looking at minimalist wardrobes, capsule wardrobes, and slower fashion. So now that you know how I got here, let's start decluttering the closet. I clean out my closet twice a year, pre-winter and pre-summer, and I switch my wardrobes over because I have a very high ceiling in my closet. I have a skylight in my closet. It leaks dust into the closet, so my clothes get dusty. And I am always concerned that a piece of clothing hanging out 365 days a year is going to get UV damage, which several pieces of my clothing have been ruined from hanging too long and having UV damage. So this is something I do twice a year to help save my clothing and also clean my closet out and declutter. So I start off pretty simply with bins to sort everything. I have a bin for trash, I have a bin for consignment or resell, and I have a bin that will be donated to the women's shelter. Then I take stock of what I want to do and kind of get really clear what my goals are for my closet and what do I want to accomplish in each section of my wardrobe. First, I start cleaning. I pull everything down that is going to go in storage. I touch every item and decide whether or not I'm going to keep it. Then I wash all of my hangers because they are usually coated in dust from the skylight. I let them dry and I fold everything up and put it away in storage and pull out everything that is going to go back on the hangers. So I unfold everything and hang it all up. One of the tricks that I do is I hang everything up with the hanger facing backwards. So it's actually, the hook is facing me on the rod. And this allows me at the turn of the next season to see what I haven't worn. And then I will evaluate whether or not that item is still something I want to keep or not. I'll get more into that in a moment. So each time you do this, set goals, because every time you start this process, you can get overwhelmed by all of that is in your closet. So you want to at least, say I'm going to throw out 10 things, and at least those 10 things have been removed and you've put your hands on them and you've decided whether or not you need to keep them. You can go for the KonMari method and pull everything out of your closet and dump it on your bed. Frankly, I don't think that many of us have the time, the focus, or the energy to do something like that. So, and for me, it's very overwhelming. And if you're easily overwhelmed like I am, you want to do this a little bit slower, because the worst thing is to have all of this out and then you don't have the time to deal with it. And then it just becomes another mental load that you can't deal with. So do it slow, go easy, make a goal list, and stick to your list. My goals during my last major purge was to get rid of everything that did not fit me anymore. I wanted to get rid of everything that didn't work for me, that wasn't my style. I also wanted to get rid of the last bits of fast fashion. And I wanted to get rid of anything that was getting old or worn out. I wanted to consolidate all of my summer pants and shorts into one storage drawer. I wanted to empty out my bin of 2 small clothes that I had kept for probably about 10 years. They were all clothes that were literally my skinny clothes, and I just had the hardest time getting rid of them, so I had been saving them and hanging on to them for a very long time. I wanted to donate all of the shoes that I no longer wore or never wore. I also wanted to get rid of all of my empty shoe boxes and empty storage boxes. I also wanted to make sure that I had some free space in my closet. I wanted to see empty space in my closet. I also wanted to remove everything off of the very top shelf of my closet because it is 8.5 feet up there and it is just not a place I need to store anything. I can't get to it unless I've got a ladder, and of course it's the closest thing to the skylight, so everything just gets covered in dust. So I wanted to clear that shelf off and get it completely emptied out and not put anything else back up there. I wanted to donate all of my fleece and get rid of everything that I was no longer wearing or was no longer appropriate for the environment that I live in, because some of my fleeces were very heavy. I did keep a handful of them, and that was mostly for not having any other option except for those pieces, and they were still in good shape. I also wanted to sell all of my vintage clothes online. So your list may look entirely different than mine, and it should, and that's a good example of how you would make a goal list. Here are some tips and tricks to have a continual culling of the fast fashion in your closet. So tip number 1 is declutter often and edit constantly. This is something that has helped me tremendously to not keep clothes that I don't wear. Don't go through and just toss everything. Like I mentioned earlier, you want to go through and do this slowly. And if you have a piece of fast fashion that you love and adore and you wear it all the time, let it live out its best life with you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And it prevents it from ending up in the landfill. Third tip was the hangers, and that is to reverse those hangers when you hang up your seasonal items. This doesn't work every year. I mean, like in 2020 and 2021, I would have gotten rid of everything in my closet because I hardly wore any of it during lockdown. So there's other seasons of life that this may be the same kind of scenario, like pregnancy, surgeries, illness, maybe you've changed jobs or something. So you don't want to just throw out everything at the end of the season that's still hanging backwards. You just want to make sure that you take a look at it and investigate why you didn't wear it. And if it has been a really long time since you've worn it, like 2 years or 3 years or so forth, then, maybe it's time to purge that item. Number 4 is hang like with like. Hang all of the like colors with like colors, sleeve links together, pant links together, and so forth. For me, this is really beneficial because I'm a winter, so my color palette is very limited, and it's very easy for me to end up with a huge section in my closet all the same color. So when I started hanging everything by color and sleeve length, especially with my shirts, I was able to figure out when I was going to purchase something, which color to buy, and if I actually needed it. This also allows you to see gaps in your wardrobe where maybe you don't have something that you should. For instance, this year I realized I did not have a really nice red sweater, and I wanted to have a really nice red sweater, so it was an item that I consciously shopped for and specifically purchased to fill that gap in my closet. So number 5 is a really valuable tip for the constant edit of your wardrobe. Keep a donation box in your closet. I keep a box that goes to ThredUp in my closet, and anytime I pull something down that I just don't like the fit, I don't like the way it looks anymore, I'll put it in the box. Or if I've worn an item for the day and I just can't get comfortable in it, or there's something about it that I don't like, I will make note of that so that when it comes out of the wash, I can fold it up and put it in the donation box. I also keep a separate donation box in the garage for all the items that need to go to Goodwill or the shelter. And this helps me make sure that it's just that simple. I just go drop it in that box. It's not a specific time that I have to allot to pulling everything out like I do with the seasonal wardrobe change. So it just makes a nice little simple way to easily edit your closet. And if you follow the 1 in, 1 out rule, where if you're bringing one item in and you have to put one item out, this is an easy way to make sure that that happens. The more I got rid of fast fashion, I realized that box was filling up slower and slower, and you'll probably realize that too, because you will start to appreciate your higher quality items, and you will probably hang on to them a little bit longer because they will last a little bit longer. Number 6 is replace items only if you need to. So when we're buying fast fashion, we'll often buy 10 or 15 of almost the same garment, and we really don't care if anything happens to it because it was inexpensive and it doesn't matter. And replacing it is not that big a deal until you don't have that same 10 or 15 items anymore. When you start purchasing items of higher quality and that are more sustainable, you'll be a little bit more conscious of making sure that you don't damage that item and that you don't need to replace it often. So think about that as you are going through this process. You won't be replacing 15 items anymore. You'll be replacing 1 or 2. I hope that makes sense. It does in my head. Number 7 is a tough one. This is my final tip, and it's not something you have to do, but it really does give you a really good idea of how much is too much. When you're done hanging up everything for the season, go through and count it. I just count my tops because that tends to be the thing that I have the most of. On average, every season contains 90 days. If you have more than 90 items hanging there, it's very unlikely that you are going to wear it. So that's a really good way to figure out how much more you could cull out of your closet. So what I accomplished during my declutter was I did manage to get all my summer pants and shorts into one storage drawer. I emptied the too small bin, which was a really tough thing for me to do. I think I kept about 4 items that I just really wasn't ready to let go of yet. They were items that I knew if I did lose weight and could fit back in them, I wasn't going to be able to replace easily. I sent 30 pounds of clothes to the shelter, and I sent 70 pounds of clothes to ThredUp. This did include all of my vintage items, which included leather jackets and leather bags. My husband also joined in on this, and he cleaned out his closet and helped me clean out the coat closet and contributed quite a few pounds of his own things to Goodwill. The top shelf of my closet is now empty. Yay! I was really glad to make that happen. I want to make a note here. This was a major purge for us. So for us to send over 100 pounds of clothing out was really because it was just a huge purge. This is not our typical type of purge. I typically only send a few pounds at a time. After you have done your first purge, I would highly suggest you set some rules for yourself, because now you're going to start shopping to replace clothing and to start shopping without shopping for fast fashion. So for me, that was, I was no longer allowed to shop at Kohl's, Marshall's, TJ Maxx, Target, Amazon, except for items where I knew what the brand was, because there are some sustainable brands on Amazon. Those are the places that I shopped. You may shop in a completely different set of stores or places for your region. So you want to kind of figure out where you're hitting up those fast fashion places. And the first thing to look at is how much do you spend and how many items are you getting? If you can go into a place and leave for $100 and you've got 15 things in your bag, you're likely shopping somewhere that sells fast fashion. So that's the first step, is to make that list of all the places you won't shop. Second step is declutter your inbox. Make sure that you unsubscribe from all of the companies that are constantly inundating you with sales on all of that fast fashion. And then as you start to find slower fashion companies that you want to look into, sign up for their emails so that you will see their sales come up, and so you can explore what types of garments they put out per season. I began choosing brands that were ethically made and that were in a more sustainable fabric. I started looking at companies that actually had a sustainability report on their website, and one that was a real sustainability report, and I will get further into that in another video later. I know for many people, some of these companies are going to be very inaccessible. So one of the things that you're going to want to start looking for is local consignment shops. Check out your local consignment shops, because you may be able to start having a circulatory relationship with that consignment shop, and you don't have to spend anything. You can take clothing in and you can leave with clothing, and you never have to buy anything. So that is one way to participate in sustainable fashion, is by not buying new clothes at all. And you can save some money that way and not break your bank by trying to buy clothing to replace everything that you are throwing away. And remember, you don't have to buy anything right now. You are going to purge, and you're going to research, and you're going to learn, and you're going to stick with me and watch some more of these videos as I put them out. So in the upcoming videos, I will discuss more of the things that I've kind of left hanging in this video, but one of the things I want to introduce you to is ThredUp. I want you to go check out their website, because for women's clothing, they accept all clothing. They will sell anything that they can, and if they can't sell it, they can either send it back to you or they will recycle it, and I think that that is fantastic. I sent all of that stuff to ThredUp. It's all already sold, and I have credit with them to use as I wish. I can use it to shop with them, or I can cash out. So I think ThredUp is an awesome option. Also, let me know in the comments below if you're interested in having all of everything that I've learned in an ebook. Because as I started this process to create these videos for you, I ended up with 20 pages worth of notes. There's lists, there's checklists, there's all kinds of information that will be a little bit difficult for me to deliver in video format. But if you're interested in me putting together an ebook with this series, please comment below and let me know, because I would be happy to put all those notes together and deliver it via my website, where you can buy it and get the PDF, and I will make it printable for you. Remember to sign up for my emails. If you haven't done so already, open the description box, because there is a link down there for signing up to my emails, so you will get all of my future content. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, because I would love to see you next time. Until then, shine on.